In the heart of Antarctica lies an American research base. Jack Hall, along with a small team, conducts research analyzing ancient ice. They discover that the ice plume is splitting, and a huge multi-kilometer crack runs through the base. At first glance, the crack appears to be the result of drilling, but Jack realizes that it is only a symptom of a more global problem. A short time later, Jack speaks at a UN conference in New Delhi. There he warns world leaders of an impending climate catastrophe. But politicians are more concerned about current economic problems than long-term environmental threats. Therefore, influential people do not take his words seriously. After the conference, Jack meets Professor Terry Rapson from Scotland, who also studies global warming. Together they begin to share data. Meanwhile, climate change begins to gather momentum. Unusual weather events are being recorded around the world. Wet snow falls unexpectedly in Delhi, and baseball-sized hail falls from the sky in Tokyo. Climate buoys deployed in the ocean record a sharp drop in temperature. This first occurs off the coast of Antarctica and then in other regions of the world's oceans where warm currents flow. All this data comes to Professor Rapson's laboratory, confirming the worst fears: the Earth's climate system is collapsing, and mankind is on the verge of climatic chaos. Jack returns to his hometown of Washington, D.C., to see his family. The next morning, his ex-wife asks Jack to drive his son to the airport. Sam is traveling to New York to take a high school quiz. For Jack, often busy on expeditions, this is a rare chance to spend time with his son. However, he is nearly late, carried away with his work, and manages to get Sam there at the last minute. Meanwhile, astronauts aboard the space station record something unusual. Giant cyclones are forming in the atmosphere, as if warning of an impending disaster. In New York, Sam and his classmates land safely. However, something in the city is alarming. The streets are clogged with traffic, and the teens have to get there on foot. Sam notices in the sky huge flocks of birds migrating south, as if instinct tells them of an approaching threat. Meanwhile, Professor Rapson, analyzing data from ocean buoys, urgently contacts Jack. The results of the research confirm something has disturbed the natural balance, and the consequences could be catastrophic. The situation is escalating on the west coast of the United States. A huge cyclone, moving from the direction of Japan, reaches Los Angeles. Several tornadoes are formed there, which unite into a destructive supertornado. The disaster literally wipes the center of the city off the face of the earth. Reporters are broadcasting live, risking their lives. In Washington, D.C., scientists call an emergency conference. Jack Hall suggests that the anomalies are caused by the stopping of the North Atlantic current. His hypothesis, based on Rapson data, explains how shifting ocean currents cause chaos in the movement of cold and warm air masses. This could set off a chain reaction that would lead to catastrophic climate change around the world. Meanwhile, in New York, Sam successfully participates in intellectual competitions, not even realizing that the world is on the brink of disaster. The bad weather continues to gain strength, and all flights are cancelled. Sam and his companions do not know how to get home. The streets of New York are slammed with torrential rains, the sewer system fails, and the water rises higher and higher. Meanwhile, Jack's team runs a simulation of further developments, and the results are shocking. Weather conditions will not just worsen, a climate catastrophe will engulf the planet in the next 6 to 8 weeks. With the new data, Jack goes to the vice president, trying to convince him to start mass evacuation of the population. However, the politician, focused on current problems, refuses to take action. At this time, a powerful cold cyclone is forming in Europe over Britain. The authorities begin to evacuate residents, including the royal family. 3 military helicopters, which found themselves in the center of the cyclone, fall into terrible conditions. A sharp drop in temperature causes the fuel to freeze and the machines lose control. The accident becomes fatal for the crews. Even those who survive the hard landing are frozen to death by the Arctic cold. Back in New York, the situation gets even worse. Sam and his friends try to get to the train station, but the city streets have turned into rivers filled with abandoned cars. The pouring rain doesn't stop. The friends take shelter in a public library building when a giant tidal wave hits New York City. Jack and his team continue to analyze the incoming data. New calculations show that there is little time to prepare. 3 super hurricanes with extremely low temperatures will hit Earth in the next 24 hours. Meanwhile, in flooded New York City, Sam finds a working phone on the bottom floor of the library and contacts his father to give his location. Jack asks his son not to go outside as a hard freeze is coming over the city. If they go outside, they will freeze to death. Jack asks his son to keep his cool and act smart, and promises that he will come after him himself. Before leaving, John reports to the president about the situation, Evacuate everyone south of a certain meridian to the southern states or Mexico. Those who will remain in the north, it is almost impossible to help. After the hurricanes, these areas will be covered with ice and snow, becoming part of a new ice age. The president, after weighing all the arguments, finally orders a mass evacuation. However, time is too short and the decision is made too late. New York City has become an ice trap. The water in the streets, not long ago bubbling in streams, has turned to ice. People, gripped by panic, hurriedly leave their shelters, hoping for salvation in the southern states. Sam pleads with those remaining in the library not to give in to illusions and stay here, but fear of the unknown and the desperate hope of rescue push most of them to this risky step. Only a few people remain, a few schoolchildren, a couple of librarians and Sam himself, who realizes that imminent death awaits them behind these walls. In the abandoned building, the survivors begin to dismantle books, their only source of warmth. At the same time, Jack and his team get stuck on the road and decide to continue on foot. The surrounding world seems to be a vast realm of cold. Suddenly, an ominous cracking sound is heard beneath their feet. The ice slab fails and one of the team members falls down. To avoid the death of the others, the man, realizing the hopelessness of the situation, cuts the rope binding him to his comrades and sacrifices himself to save them. At the same time in New York, Sam notices that his classmate, for whom he has long harbored feelings, does not come to his senses. Leafing through an old book, he realizes that the girl has a blood infection caused by a scratch. Saving her requires antibiotics, which the library doesn't have. Risking his life, Sam decides to go to the Russian ship frozen in the ice. The teens find the med bay and stock up on medicine. They are about to leave the ship, but unexpectedly encounter a pack of wolves who have escaped from a destroyed zoo. The predators drive them into the corridors of the ship. The teens' hearts sink as the eyes of the hungry beasts glare in the dim light of the lanterns. At the last second, Sam and his friends lock the wolves in the cabin and return to the library with medicine and food. Meanwhile, Jack Hall and his partner get caught in the epicenter of a supercyclone. Suddenly the snow subsides and the sky becomes clear. However, this turns out to be a deadly lull. Cold air rushes in, turning everything around them into an icy wasteland. Jack and his partner barely manage to take shelter in the ventilation shaft of a nearby building. The next day, they continue their journey. The frozen landscape is dotted with the corpses of those who tried to leave the city. Sam and the handful of survivors in the library continue to fight for life, believing that help will still come. Jack and his partner stop for a brief rest to catch their breath. Amidst the icy wasteland, thoughts of the future seemed almost abstract. But deep down Jack knew that mankind had always found a way to survive even the worst disasters. This confidence kept him going every step of the way. Meanwhile, aboard the ISS, the astronauts watched the changed world in amazement. The picture was majestic and frightening at the same time. It seemed that the Earth had put on an ice mask. Jack and his partner made it safely to the public library. The group, consisting of Sam, his friends, and the librarians, huddled together in the warmth of the hearth, burning anything that could burn. There was silence in the room, broken only by the crackling of the flames. News was coming from the south. The new acting president addressed the world, reporting the first signs of hope. Rescuers received a signal from the northern latitudes, confirming that even in the harshest conditions, people were able to survive. Rescue helicopters reached New York City, hovering over the frozen city. Survivors began to appear among the ruins. They went out on the roofs of houses, waving their hands, welcoming the help for which they had already almost despaired. Jack and his son and his companions boarded the ship, leaving behind the ruined city. This is where the movie ends. If you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe and give the channel a like. See you soon.